So this is my third video continuing the history of the Brett Kavanaugh case that only too recently was resolved. And for this short vlog, I'm going to begin in a bit of a different way than my previous videos. My dad, who for a few weeks was away on vacation out west, he's mostly retired now, still taking on a little work here and there to pay bills and take some scenic trips. He and I went for dinner together last night, and we caught up on quite a lot. What we've each been doing and learning, and he missed the entire Kavanaugh case and hearing. He was away for quite a few weeks. So I told him all about it, among other topics in our conversations. Now, to refresh from the last lessons from the Kavanaugh case video I uploaded, how it all began was someone from the Democratic Judiciary Committee, sometime in early September, I think, early to mid-September, began throwing around information referring to some possible sexual misconduct on a woman in 1982. Turns out this woman who had some possibly vague memories that she was talking to her therapist about, of being attacked in, being sexually assaulted at this party back in the late 80s, although she was unable to specify the time or place. Talked about the rough years that would have taken place. I'm not quite sure how 1982 was ultimately specified, but it was all these say-sos and maybes, and the Democratic Judiciary Committee passed it on to federal investigators, trying to pass it off as this legitimate case to be investigated when there was zero evidence to begin with. And so this turns out she is this psychology professor, Christine Blasey Ford, for a long time resisted even coming to even give her statement to the court. And the only reason, I mean, let's really be honest, because we all know it by now, the only reason that this maybe event was tied to Brett Kavanaugh's name at all is because they wanted to take down someone who was nominated by President Trump, and they used this say-so and maybes jumble in order to do it, to try to pass it off as a legitimate federal investigation, even though it never should have been. Now, supposedly, the year 1982 was narrowed down. 1982 was 36 years ago. Okay, almost 37. Closing in on 40 years ago. Alright? Let's talk about the logical problems with bringing up accusations of maybe events that take place that long ago. Alright? In rational societies, the first world, the free world, is desperately hanging by its fingers onto the ledge of rationality, trying to gain its handholds and footholds again. In order to maintain a rational society and rational system of justice, you have to have a method of determining the guilty from the innocent. And the best way that humans have ever had is through evidence. By looking at the evidence that you're able to gather together, whose story makes sense and whose does not. The given problem you have with more and more time passing since the event you're looking into took place, or was said to have taken place, is time has a way of withering away reliable evidence. This is why looking into crime scenes or archaeological sites that took place hundreds or thousands of years before, very, very difficult to solve. And 1982 was 36 years ago. As I said, coming on 37. Closer to 40 years ago than to 30. That is longer ago that Ben Shapiro is old. I mention him because I learned a lot of this story and its progression through him. That's definitely older than I am. It's older than even most of the earliest millennials are still. Now, the problem you have with cases of sexual activity and why they are particularly hard to deal with when much time has passed is that physical evidence, bodily evidence, is not very long-lived once it's outside the body. If you know much about biological material, skin, fluid, blood, semen, all this organic material that can be used as forensic evidence, it doesn't last outside of a living body for very long. I mean, once it's outside of a living body, it effectively dies quickly because it's no longer being kept alive. Blood may last a little while if it's splattered on the floor or walls or something. If you look at those detective shows or documentaries where they use the ultraviolet light to look, the blood may be there, or traces of it. It doesn't necessarily mean the DNA is reliable. But and this is because a DNA that can link a unique individual to it breaks down very fast. The DNA, you look at the helix, the double helix, the nucleotide chains and the bonds, they break down when outside of a living body very fast. So in the absence of any eyewitness accounts, and here's the thing about eyewitness accounts, they can be manipulative, they can be unreliable, they can be given through, after a person has been threatened, when they're under pressure, they can be very easily distorted and unreliable. So, in the absence of even that, or when you have no video recordings, any forensic evidence after a very narrow span of time, if it even exists to begin with, has become unreliable because, as we just said, whatever material was there has either broken down or can also be contaminated by other pieces of material in the environment, or both. So we really have to have that level of understanding clear first, okay? Evidence degrades over time. And bodily, physical evidence can degrade very, very fast. And here's the understanding we need to establish next. In order to have a fair and credible system of justice at all, and in order to maintain it throughout the decades and centuries, generations, which is equally important, the foundational value of innocent until proven guilty must be held and put first. If that is not honored, the entire justice system is no longer reliable and has become a kangaroo court and a really witch hunt factory, just churning out, destroying people's lives, false accusation after false accusation, destroying people's lives, used to bludgeon and destroy people you don't like or don't want around, and to tell you a truth that many, many men are already familiar with. The family courts became exactly that quite a while ago.